Hey guys, Cat7 here. Okay, it is Friday, April 25th, 2025, and I'd like to thank you for visiting the Stonewall Research 2 channel here on YouTube. Thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. If you do like the videos, please hit the like button and please do subscribe. If you're not a subscriber, we discuss some very interesting things here. Alright guys, well, as I promised in a previous video, I wanted to sort of blow a hole in this cover story from official sources about the mystery drones of New Jersey and New York. But before I get to that, I just want to talk about some affirmations to some of the research that I put in about UFOs or UAPs or biomechanoids, as I'd like to call them. But that angle of it is what I approach it as on my channel. So nobody else is doing this on YouTube or anywhere else. So I feel it's, my responsibility to um, research this particular thread in ufology that nobody else seems to want to tackle. So, in any case, before we get to the New Jersey drone, mystery drone thing, and the silly cover story that we're giving there, and obviously what I'm going to show you sort of blows a hole in that whole stupid thing there. But before I do that, I just wanted to get to some of the affirmations that I referred to in the title to this video about my videos and my approach, to UFOs or UAPs or what I think they are, these living features or biomechanoids, and sort of things that back this up, these notions up. Now, it's interesting to me that, whenever I do a video, this cover page comes up from, my channel here, and it just picks random videos. This first video here that they have here, UFOs, UAPs, USOs, biomechanoids, some observations and thoughts, physical attributes. Okay, so I talked about how it's been reported by eyewitnesses that UFOs make some sort of buzzing or humming sound. And, I've talked to other people about this, and when I mentioned to them, some people have never heard of that. To them, UFOs don't make any sound. This is the whole thing about them that's, remarkable. But there has been many reports to that, and I mentioned that in my video. But better for me to give a demonstration of what I'm talking about through some of the other reports given on the internet, and specifically YouTube here, because that's what I'm interested in. Obviously, that's what I'm fed as the recommended videos on when I go to my homepage with YouTube here. So let me just, show you this, and, you can listen to it a little bit here, or let you listen to a little bit of this, and, this is all for education purposes and to affirm the things that I've been talking about. Now, here's my video from 9 months ago, and here's a channel, Beyond Creepy. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but I love this channel because there's all these paranormal stories, UFO stories, ghosts, Bigfoot, all sorts of things, dog men, cricket men, all this kind of stuff. So, I'm subscribed to this channel, so I get these feeds here. So just check this out, okay? So in the video that I had on my channel, I referred to these UFOs making these sounds, these electrical humming sounds and sputtering sounds and all that kind of stuff. So there could have been people watching the video said, well, I've never heard of any such thing. And also people I've talked to, here out in the world, they also are not familiar with that. So in any case, check this out. Check out what is said on Beyond Creepy here, which is a great channel. If you don't know about it, it's some great stories that this fellow goes through on his channel. So just listen to the opening here for this Belgrade incident, UFO incident, and what he says and what the actual report says.
So he was out there trying to gather the cattle, to finish his chores. He just wanted to kind of get it over with, and he was hoping it wouldn't come back. And then, of course, it did. It just kind of like swooped back in, and it scared the animals. It scared the farmer. He took off running. Kind of reminded me of the way he described it, or the way the report describes it. It kind of reminded me of that movie, Jordan Peele movie, Nope. If anyone's seen that movie,
I've never seen it.
The way the craft is shown in the movie, it's almost like an animal. It just kind of like comes
like an animal,
swoops right in, and it's suddenly there, and it's very ominous the way it's depicted in the film, and that's kind of what I had in my mind when I was reading this report.
Like an animal. Like I say, he's
it was
the
September
report.
14th, 1952.
This is what this guy's location is.
Belgrade, Florida, directly west of West Palm Beach on the south shore of Lake Okeechobee. Mr. Fred J. Brown, an employee of the Everglades Experimental Station, had awoken at 4:30 a.m., his regular schedule, to feed the dozen cows which resided on the property. As he worked to get the food ready, he suddenly took notice of a very strange humming sound outside, which he likened to high-voltage power lines.
Ooh.
He thought this to be highly unusual. What could be making that sound, he wondered.
So in any case, you don't have to, if you want to hear the rest of it, please do watch the video. Beyond Creepy is a great channel. I highly recommend it. But I just wanted to show you, this video was posted 2 months ago, and I mean, I'm sure this is an old report anyway, but maybe I'm familiar with it. I don't know, from all the reports I've listened to, and this is why I was talking about it in my video, because people have reported these things, and here's a guy reporting about the humming noise and high voltage electrical lines. This is exactly what I was talking about in this video here that I posted to my channel here 9 months ago. So from 2 months ago, Beyond Creepy with this Belgrade incident account where the guy says about the humming and the electrical crackling sounds and all kind of stuff. So just to affirm what I say, so you know that I'm not, yanking you, okay? Here is just an affirmation about that, okay? So, and so as we're going along these lines, okay, I just want to take you to, this channel here, Dark 5, which is another great channel. I highly recommend it. I love watching this because they put 5 different, things in the videos here, and all of them are very interesting, and I love watching these videos. So in any case, this is also in my feed. Subscribe, so I watch these things when I get a chance. Many of them I haven't seen, so just listen to what is said about was this fellow Frank Smythe and saw while this is about the Himalayas, mysteries of the Himalayas here in the Dark 5 mysteries of the Himalayas, and one that concerns this English fellow Frank Smythe, who was an avid climber and a well-known one. He was also a botanist and a published author, a no-nonsense kind of guy, and all kind of stuff. So I just want you to see and also hear what is being shown here on Dark 5 here, in reference to what I'm always saying about what I think these UFOs are. These biomechanoids based on my belief, but simple observation of creatures on this planet that are bioluminescent, bioelectrical, and biomechanical, like a knife fish. It was just a capacitor. Is a nature built capacitor. As a matter of fact, our register here at the store is broken because it won't release the drawer for a cash sale. Or if you hit the no sale key, the drawer will also open. It triggers an electrical valve hooked to a capacitor, okay, that stores energy. When you ring a cash sale or hit no sale, it triggers the valve and it opens the drawer. The spring pushes the drawer out. So that capacitor is just a connection that's broken. I'm sure there's probably nothing wrong with the capacitor. The connection is just bad, but the capacitor is what triggers the valve there. A burst of electricity is held by the capacitor, and a knife fish is a living capacitor, okay? It's a machine, all right? It's an electrical machine that's made right here in nature. Okay, so just to affirm, my notion about it, and what I've gotten from a lot of these reports about UFO sightings and whatnot. Well, here's one that's just right out of this guy's account climbing Mount Everest here that just you know backs up every notion about them that I have. So listen to what's being said here on a Dark Five, okay? Just for this little snippet here out of the video here.
In June 1933, Frank Smythe stood alone on Mount Everest's North Ridge, just shy of the summit, when something peculiar caught his eye. At 28,200 feet, every breath felt like an achievement. The English mountaineer, renowned for his daring exploits and fiery temperament, had chosen this grueling path toward the peak. But as he paused, squinting against the thin air, he saw something no climber before or since could adequately explain. Two strange dark objects hovering in the sky, pulsating.
Just look at the representation here, wherever they got it from or whatever, that's supposed to represent what this guy saw. I mean, do these things here look like spacecraft to you? It's some kind of crab without claws and feet or something like that, with beaks and eyes and whatnot, but just whatever. This is their artist rendering of it in sort of claymations, animation here or whatever, but
as if they were alive.
They were alive, but we missed that little detail
that before or since could adequately explain. Two strange dark objects hovering in the sky, pulsating as if they were alive.
Pulsating as if they were alive.
Smythe, known for his detailed observations and direct writing style, described the objects as resembling kite balloons, with one possessing a beak-like protrusion and the other squat wings. Despite the intense fatigue and oxygen deprivation, he conducted an experiment. He looked away, reciting the names of nearby peaks, Cho Oyu, Yeocheon-kan, then back again. The objects hadn't moved, hanging in the sky, unaffected by the wind. He later noted that the pulsations were much slower than his own heartbeat, and their distinct, lifelike motion defied simple explanation. But what were they? An optical illusion born of the mountain's notorious hypoxia, or something stranger, an alien mystery tethered to Everest's icy heights? Frank Smythe was no novice climber prone to flights of fancy. Born in 1900, he'd already secured a reputation as one of Britain's finest mountaineers, with multiple daring ascents in the Alps and Himalayas. He was also an accomplished author and botanist, his adventures brought to life in nearly 30 books. Smythe described the encounter in his book Camp 6, dismissing the notion that it was merely a hallucination caused by altitude sickness. Others, however, were less convinced. Mike Ward, the doctor on 1953 Everest expedition, attributed Smythe's vision to hypoxia. Yet Smythe had insisted until his final days that the objects, or perhaps creatures, were real.
perhaps
As it
creatures.
descended from Everest that fateful day, the strange objects vanished behind a sudden mist, disappearing as mysteriously as they had emerged.
See? Okay? I'm just... Look, you want to believe whatever rabbit hole they want to fucking bring you down. Alright? I feel sorry for you. I really do. I'm sorry. I feel very passionate about this. Alright? What they're not telling you about these things is that they aren't spaceships. Alright? And they know all about it. Just like the mystery drones of New Jersey and New York. And if you remember that a few months back here's some photos of them. And a lot of people got a lot of photos because they were all over the place. Here's a photo of one of them here, and here's another one over here. See, I mean, these are kind of far away and blurry, but they seem to be like this triangular lighting effect to them. And there's another one here. People got quite a few photographs of these things. You know, again, that drone sightings, and I'm not sure, I must have passed that one with the multiple drones in the sky. Like I showed from the newspaper, how these things were acting. They sort of all come together, but then when they reach their destination, I guess, whatever parts of northern New Jersey there, and Staten Island in New York there, once they reach their destination, they sort of broke off, going, their own separate ways, some in little groups, etc., etc. It just totally reminded me. Here's another one of these photographs of them sort of grouped together here. Someone looks like more in the background there. But, okay, so it just reminded me of a flock of pigeons and how they behave, because that's how they start their day out. I know, because I feed the pigeons here, my store here, every day. And, they come as a flock, and, they eat for a while here, and then they sort of, during the day, break off and go into their little groups all over the place. I was trying to get a little video of that as I was walking across the parking lot here to some and I'm talking about it. I'm looking at these little groups of pigeons. One flock, and they start their day out that way because I feed them every day. So I know how they start out. They circle the whole town here as a flock and end up where I put the seed. And you can see they're not too afraid of cars as they pass by. Similar to that to the drones, right? And the cars get awfully close to these guys. They're not particularly frightened over anything. They just, sort of shift out of the way. But it just, I don't know. To me, I see a similarity in behavior. So, I'm always looking. So anyway, that's it. I was just walking across the parking lot over here, and I noticed all the pigeons in their little groups, and some single ones, wandering around and whatnot, and, all over the place there in the parking lot there. So, this exactly the same kind of behavior that these drones had, when they were, in these group photographs that they gave, these panoramic photographs of these drones across the sky. One in the newspaper that I showed on my channel here had like, I don't know, dozens of them up there and all over the sky over there. And they were in little groups and separate ones and just like a flock of pigeons. So I don't know. That's how sort of flock animals behave. They have their own separate little groups and guys they like to hang out with and whatnot. And often, as I was walking around, I used to do a lot of walking around this town. I'd see them all over the place, in separate places, little groups together, and guys who like to hang out with each other, I guess. So, in any case, I liken that to their, behavior of the drones. And, we've seen all these pictures of what they look like and everything. So, anyway, I'm watching the Dark 5 here, okay, and this particular one was 5 creepiest
during the day and at night.
Thing loaded
The
again.
first sightings date to 1811.
Okay.
But the unexplained phenomenon was being reported up to 20 times per week in the 1980s. There have also been unverifiable reports of different
this
sightings,
is a Haskellin
such as
light.
astronomical bodies, aircraft.
Okay, so I'm watching 5 creepiest mysteries that may never be explained. So they may never be explained. Okay, and this is 5 years ago, this video here. Okay, so this is about the Haskellin lights in Norway here. Okay, I'm watching this video, okay, because I like this channel, Dark 5. Again, I highly recommend it. And they're showing this thing here, and I'm watching it, and just take a look at this. Maybe you can explain it to me.
Reports of mysterious lights visible from Hessdalen, Norway, have been routinely documented since the 19th century. Most report, quote, typically large, bright white, blue, red, or yellow lights floating above the ground or shooting at amazing speeds. And occasionally, quote,
huh? What's that? From 5 years ago. Did the FAA have experimental drones in Norway, in Hessdalen, Norway? Or maybe they modeled their experimental drones after this thing that they saw in Hessdalen, Norway over there. Because, not only the balls of light they were talking about, they say they got, triangular craft and, saucer-shaped craft, and they show this. So I'm saying to myself, well, wait a second here. That looks awfully similar to these drones, these mystery drones from New Jersey and New York from 5 years ago on the 5 previous mysteries that may never be explained from the Dark 5 from Hessdalen, Norway. So, I don't think so. Okay, so, look, if they're seeing UFOs in Hessdalen, Norway, from not only 5 years ago, it goes on to say we've seen them for like centuries over there. Okay, and here is one of those ones that they guess it's a picture or an artist rendition or whatever it might be, but it certainly looks very similar to any of these things over here. Okay, so, well, what are they seeing over there? Was that drones too 5 years ago? Was the FAA, did the Norwegians have their own FAA with experimental drones over there, 5 years ago so they could, deny this thing? Or are they, the Hessdalen lights is some sort of, mystery and that's happening in their country that they sort of recognize and can't explain. So, I don't know, but this does not seem very good for their argument there, that, their cover story there about them being these experimental drones and all kind of stuff, because, what is this in Hessdalen, Norway there that they're seeing there that they can't explain and attribute to being a UFO? All right, so You know, I don't know. Think what you want, but to me, this sort of suggests that they're pulling our chain here, they're yanking our chain here, and giving us a BS cover story about it's something that they can't explain or they know fully about, but don't want to tell us about it because out of fear that we may not understand, or it may trigger some emotions in people that are not good. So they'd rather give us stories about other civilizations in the universe, and that are somehow have spacecraft reaching our planet from light years away and all kind of stuff, and just complete speculation on all these things, when, as I just went over with you with these other sort of affirming videos here about the crackling noises, electrical, that seem like, behave like an animal or a creature, or seeing creatures, not spacecraft. All right, so again, and here's a interesting video from about the what was seen in the skies above Germany. It's done by this War Stories channel. They basically seem like a wartime story is what the channel is. It's interesting. They're showing this sort of their um, animated, updated animated sort of narration to what they saw in the skies up there. And you see these things here, these X things, right? Balls and these sort of tubular things like the Tic Tac um, UAP. All right, so you got like every element here seen above, Germany there in this coastal town on the Rhine there. Reports, and there were artist renderings from back then with the story that was reported, I guess, in their whatever publications they had there. And just, well, what are these things, that X things there that are sort of similar to X drones, right? Similar to drones that were seen in 1655 there, or 15, whatever, 1500s or whatever it was, that it was 1566 or something like that. Okay, so kind of hard to have the FAA doing experimental aircraft back then either in Germany. So anyway, guys, this is what I wanted to show you about these stories here, whether it be the misinfo about the mystery drones, which, it's no mystery to me. They either know what they are and they're not telling us, or they don't know what they are and they don't want to tell us that either. As not to appear stupid or uninformed or ignorant about some occurrence that was going on that was inexplicable. The public doesn't want those kind of answers from their elected officials, no matter what. Even if it's honest, they don't want it. They'd rather believe beautiful lies instead of the ugly truth. So, I don't know. In my mind, these things seem like, perhaps they're even being, the young offspring, on Mars of these triangular UFOs that are seen often. These are like the babies or something like that. You have to think these things, if they are biomechanoids, like I think they are, okay, that they're going to have, offspring. Well, how's that going to happen? Is it, more like a mammal, just going to have a few offspring, or more like a bug or something like that? They're going to have, a multitude of offspring and sort of left to their own auspices once they hatch, or perhaps in some instances where I've heard reports where these things look like they come as a ball and they break up into these different ones and, then come back together again, like huddling together, so it seems like, either herd or a school behavior, animal, again, more animal behavior. I'm always reckoning these things. So just like the fellow said in Beyond Creepy there, seem like animal behavior or, behavior of a creature. Why would people say these things? Well, this is because recurs in, these reports over and over again. These things behaving like creatures, more like creatures and less like spacecraft. Okay, that's all I'm saying. And I give my evidence in all my videos, whether it be on my original Stonewall Research channel or this channel, the Stonewall Research 2 channel, whatever. I give all my sort of circumstances or, indirect, evidence for my side of the argument, other than, just, hey, these fantastic stories that sound all good from, whatever it is, Andromeda and Beta Reticuli and, whatever it might be, Klingons or, whoever it is that they think it is. But there's people who didn't believe that, but that's such a small segment of ufology that, nobody's paying attention, evidently. So, nobody's paying attention in the UFO community. Even people who are members of MUFON, like David Paulides, never mentions it. So it's all part of UFO lore. Well, if you're going to consider every other aspect of it, well, you got to consider this one too. See? You just can't leave it out because you don't like it. Alright? So we don't know what they are. So as long as we don't know what they are, anything is open to interpretation. Alright? So this is one way Charles Fort did it, and, all these other guys, Wright, Wilhelm Reich, and, Trevor James Constable, nobody hears anything about these people and what they thought about UFOs, but I'm here to talk about it. So this is what I do. And even after, my buddy called me down to this UFO lecture at the library, it was about like 2 years ago. I managed to make it there for the last like 45 minutes or whatever it was. And, when they were sort of ending and people were talking about either their experiences or asking questions, I talked about what he didn't talk about and this aspect of it. And people came up to me after the lecture was over and said, we want to know more about this aspect of it. They never heard of it before. So, see, it's being sort of withheld and covered up. What they don't talk about is probably what it is. And this is what my contention about it is. So, anyway, guys, I just thought I would bring these things to your attention here. Again, this is, I'm promoting these channels highly, and, this is for education purposes, sort of affirmations of, what I talk about on my channel. So, just think about it, okay? That's all I ask. Alright? So anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed it. Please do hit the like button, and Bud